This podcast is brought to you by Customplan Financial Advisors Inc, an independent insurance managing general agency in Canada. FinancialPodcast.ca was developed with one goal in mind: to educate Canadians on important topics that affect their financial well-being and make it readily available to all. We welcome you to plug in and learn with us. If you have questions, please email us at contact@financialpodcast.ca.
Good day, everyone, and welcome back to Financial Podcast. My name is Darlene, and I'm happy to be back doing this. We went on a bit of a hiatus over the summer, but we've got some great shows lined up for the fall, including today's. And today, we've got a couple of very successful people on the program to talk about the underrepresentation of women in financial services. When Advocates last did a survey, they discovered that 30% of their members were women, with half of those members coming from Central, as in Ontario and Quebec, Canada. Advocates is one of the largest organizations for financial planners in the country. And while we'll speak to somebody from Advocates another time, today we're talking to successful women in this industry to get their thoughts on why it's so difficult to recruit women into the financial services industry. So today I'd like to welcome Megan Vallis, who is a VP for Western Canada for Equitable Life, and Libby Wildman, a partner at Davis Ray Limited. So let's talk a little bit about Megan. As the group sales vice president for Western Canada at Equitable Life, Megan Vallis leads the Western sales team. She is passionate about helping advisors succeed to transform their clients' employee benefit experience to what Megan calls braggable benefits. Her 15-year career has centered around three pillars: building meaningful relationships, embracing innovative technology and solutions, and harnessing the potential in others to achieve strategic goals while also supporting them as an individual. Libby Wildman is a partner of Davis Ray and creator of Liminal Escapes. Libby's approach to building a business in the financial services industry is centered around the whole person and creating a relationship with them. She has been in this business for over 3 decades and has mentored many and been involved in a number of charities. So you two, while working on opposite sides of the country and having never met before, share some common principles. So getting back to this, the big question that I have, in your opinion, why is it so hard to recruit women into the financial planning industry? Megan, maybe we can start with you.
Sure, thanks, Darlene. Really happy to be here today. I think there's a lot of factors as to why it's hard to recruit women. But if I think about myself entering, the group insurance industry and how I entered insurance, I applied for a job that was called a marketing specialist. And when I landed into the interview, I discovered that this was not a marketing role. It was in fact a sales role. And I never would have applied had I realized it was a sales role. And I'm so glad that this mix-up happened, because as it turns out, I'm extremely passionate about the benefits industry. But I think that's really a piece of why women stay away, is our biases against sales and what sales are and what it entails. When it turns out these wholesaling roles that the insurance carriers offer and in the finance side as well are wonderful, relationship sales roles. And it's not necessarily what people view as a traditional, in air quotes, sales. It's not the car salesman, and not saying that car salesmen act this way, but it's that stereotype. And, getting past that stereotype, I think would get more women into financial planning. And then another piece is, recruiting and learning early, in high school, university. Whenever you talk to anyone in our industry, they go, well, I never dreamed about being in insurance. I kind of stumbled into it. And so I think if we can share more about what these roles are, when people are younger, they can take the courses required to get into them. They can learn more about what they entail and realize that it's actually a really great career path.
Oh, and what about you, Libby? What do you think? Why is it so hard? You've been in this role for 3 decades. You've no doubt mentored many women. Why do you think it's so hard?
Yeah, Megan, those are really actually amazing insights, I think, about helping women. I'm on the other side, so we're commission only, which is a completely different hurdle to get over. I was surprised that it was actually 30% in advocates, Darlene, because I think at KALU, where I'm a member, it's probably closer to 10. And I think it was probably 10 when I started in 1988. It's surprising to me because as a single mom of 3, it's actually an amazing career for a number of reasons. I have the freedom, control over my time. When I see people, I could work weekends if I want. I could work nights if I want. I can take vacations when I want. I don't have a real boss. Also, I have found that women are really amazing empaths and listeners, and people feel very comfortable sharing their life stories. And my liminal escape retreats on self-connection, which we just finished too, were actually born out of 30 years of listening to people define and judge themselves around money by my clients. So I think there is an industry issue that needs to be addressed for men and women, which is when you come into the industry that you maybe need some financial help to be able to stay in it, because often it could be 6 months before you actually earn any real kind of income. And if a woman is stepping outside of the house and she needs to replace the cost of a nanny, which could be $45,000 in Toronto, you've really got to look at, do I love what I'm doing? Am I going to be adequately compensated in order for me to leave the house? So I think there has to be some tweaking in that respect. And I agree with you, Megan, about sales and the whole word life insurance. I mean, I've had many people at cocktail parties where, you're exchanging about what do you do? And so somebody will spend a lot of time telling me what they do. And then I'll say to them what I do. And they're like, oh yeah, I already have life insurance. And I think to myself, gosh, I wasn't going to ask you to buy life insurance. I was simply sharing because I listened to you for 10 or 15 minutes about what you did. So there's a real stigma. I think there's some industry issues that could be worked on to attract more women, because I think it's actually a beautiful career for women.
Yeah, truthfully, I've heard a lot of, for the number of guests that I've had, a lot of them have said it is the best career that they've ever had. And there have been a few, like you men, that have also said that they've just sort of stumbled into it. They hadn't planned on being in insurance, but it just sort of came along. So you brought up a good point there, Libby, about how the industry itself needs to change a bit. What are some of those changes you'd like to see?
Well, I've been helping to recruit for different insurance companies, and these are people in their 20s or 30s, even in their 50s. We've been interviewing people because we would like to bring a new advisor on at our firm, Davis Ray. The issue is everybody's looking for income. And the way our business works, it's really hard for us to pay somebody income to get them up and learning. And then when they're good, they're going to want to switch to full commission. So it's hard for us to pay for them in that period of time, and 2 out of 10 stay in the industry for more than 3 years. And that stat hasn't changed since I began. So I think how we compensate, how the industry compensates people, and look, once we get full disclosure on our compensation, which I'm pretty sure is coming, I think that we may see more levelized commission versus the way we get paid, which is somewhere around 80% in the first year. So I think it's going to have to be a real combination of industry initiatives and then those of us who've been around for a while mentoring and offering the right kind of opportunities to bring in more people. I mean, I think the average age, I believe, in our industry is 57. Like, that's just crazy. We need new people. We need fresh, young blood who are great at the new way to do things. Megan was talking about digitalization, and Equitable Life was ahead of the curve on that. So we desperately need new people, and we're going to have to look about how to bring in those people so that we maintain a really professional association and reputation, I think, in the financial services industry.
Well, I think you've touched on a couple of really important points, and having been a single mother, you know that income replacement is going to be so important especially in the beginning. What about you, Megan? You work for, a large company. You're responsible for a sales force, for a large sales force. Well, first of all, like, just roughly, what would you say is the percentage of men to women on your sales team?
On my sales team, it's about a 50-50 split. And, group benefits, I think, is an outlier to other, sectors, because it's kind of this, I'm going to call it safe sales place, where we've got great base salaries, and that's really a key piece to getting in. But you also have insurance carriers who invest a lot of time and money into training people out of university. And so a lot of these wholesaler jobs, group benefits, but also, life insurance wholesaling, investments, living benefits, these product lines have insurers recruiting people out of university, spending a lot of time and money training them to set them up for success, and giving them that key that Libby was speaking about, which is a good base salary. And then you're earning, your sales incentives, through bonuses of whatever kind. And so I've noticed that, even within the insurance office, though, there is kind of splits. You'll see living benefits, group benefits heavily, employed with women. But then on the investment side, it's still primarily men. But it's that same safe sales environment of being at the insurance carrier and working for the insurance carrier instead of being on your own and fully commission based. So I can't help but wonder if that has something to do with the subjects that women versus men are encouraged to take and follow in school. Do more men go through university and take finance as a discipline versus women taking marketing or HR? We know that we have these industries that are populated, stereotypically more by men and women. A lot of women go to marketing, HR, men go into, heavier business, finance, or maybe sciences. So I think encouraging women from a younger age to go into the mathematics, go into the sciences would really help people enter, a lot of these financial industry jobs.
Yeah, and I think you guys are touching on some really great points there. The perception of sales and how it has typically been a male-dominated area, whereas HR and marketing has been typically dominated by women. So does history have any part to play in how women perceive financial services and working in this industry?
Definitely. Think of, the financial services industry as a whole. We think of movies like The Wolf of Wall Street. And I think that the culture of the financial services industry and maybe of sales has been a bit of a turnoff for women as well. If you think about what's involved in being a great salesperson, you're building great relationships with people. Mm-hmm. And a lot of that can be lunches, dinners, nights out. In my case, it was the guys playing hockey in a hockey league together. It was golfing. So, a lot of deals are made in the hockey dressing room, and I just wasn't there. But I'm there for lunches and dinners. But if you think about even a dinner, and maybe you take a financial advisor to a game, or a financial advisor is taking a client to a game, if you're a woman going to dinner and a game, you might be thinking about, how is that perceived by other people? Is this individual going to think that this is a date? They know it's not a date, and it's not a date, but it smells a lot like a date. And so I think women are thinking about other people's perceptions in that moment as well. And is this going to be a safe space? Am I going to have a drink? How much should I have? Maybe you're going out with a large group of people. What does that look like? What will my spouse think? Maybe you have other obligations at home. I know that, we have an industry networking group in Vancouver for women, and we usually get together after work hours, but it's challenging for a lot of women to make it because they're the primary caretaker of their kids. And so I think until we kind of normalize maybe some other relationship sales activities, and we normalize, really great low-cost childcare nationally, and then also men being a primary child caretaker as well, we're going to continue to have some of these challenges.
That's like a whole societal shift, though. That's huge.
It fundamentally is. And if we want women to be in the workplace and be able to succeed to our full potential, a really key piece of that is affordable childcare, and men taking pat leave, and men being on the same kind of caregiver level as women. And before we get the not all men's, we know it's not all men, but in our society, that's how things are viewed. And I think that, throughout the pandemic, we saw a lot of women suffer more because they are, generally their primary caretaker at home.
Yeah, those are some valid points. What do you think, Libby? Do you think history has a part to play in this?
Yeah, I think, Megan, it's so true what you say. I mean, I've been around for a long time, and I would offer to take somebody, let's say, to a Raptors game, and they would look at me and say, you know what, Libby, my wife's really not too keen on me going out with you tonight to the game. So I'd say, fine, just take the tickets. But I would lose out then on that opportunity of the relationship. So I think if we want to turn it around, because Megan's already covered off really amazing points, and our whole office played hockey too, Megan, and it always bugged me because they're like, well, you can come watch. I grew up with all boys. I'm like, I don't want to watch. I want to participate. But at the same time, you can't be in the locker room. So I get it. So what can we do? So as women, one of the ways into the industry is to do, as Megan said, go in as a wholesaler, start off with an income. A lot of people eventually go into personal production afterwards, whether they start their own group benefits firm, or they get into pension, or whether they get into the insurance and financial planning. What can we do? Those of us who are already established can really help with women with, protocol and how to be. And also when you are in a meeting to, I hate to say it, but dress appropriately and act appropriately. It's not a date. And I know when I was young, because I was 21 when I started, I would start asking guys, all these financial questions, and they would look at me and say, oh, this is a great MRS degree for you, isn't it? Like, Mrs. I'm like, no, I ask everybody these questions. But anyway, so I had to learn sort of by myself, although my dad, Robbie Wildman, was a fabulous sales trainer, but I had to learn by myself how to hold myself out so that men never got the wrong impression from me, and that I wasn't giving the wrong impression. So I think we could help. We could, for instance, I have a book of business that I can't spend the time to call on. I would love to mentor somebody to come in and help me with that. And you know what, my clients like women because I'm a woman. So, it might be nice to mentor somebody else into that and give them that opportunity. So it's going to be a long time till we address these issues, Megan, and they need to be, even things like maternity leave, right? It's very hard to live off of what the maternity leave basis is. And if you're on commission, to be away from work for a year, you can't say to your clients, I'm sorry, I'm not going to answer emails for a year. Like, that's just, you can't. But also your sales funnel is dead, right? Like if you're gone for a year, everybody that you had sort of got to the point where they were thinking about it, that's all gone cold. So I think there are ways to manage this, and it's just having the right people in place and being mindful of what are the things that we can do to set women up for success.
Both of you have brought up some really great points, and I think I just want to clarify too. So childcare is a big issue and in this industry because, like as you pointed out, women are primarily the prime caregiver at home, having a stable income in the beginning, and having help within the home. So we're talking about some big thought processes that have to change. And to be honest, like I worked for 15 years in IT. When I was in college, there were 6 women to 30 men. And it was very similar. I can tell you that it was somewhat intimidating. You go into a meeting and you think to yourself, okay, am I really qualified to speak? Maybe I'll just be quiet and listen to others. And that was the perception I had, because women weren't supposed to be good in technology. And so I found it a real challenge to speak up. Now, I was fortunate in the last part of my career in that I worked with men that were, didn't care if you were blue, black, male, female, all of the above. You just had to prove yourself intellectually. Do you see, like, over the last few years, do you see any of that changing when you go into meetings, when you network with other men? Do you see some shift in that thought process anywhere? Libby, what do you think?
Well, I'm not sure exactly what you mean. I mean, there are more women for sure. But I mean, we have people from Ricoh and Xerox knock on our door all the time to sell photocopiers, which are a fairly high-end expense, and it's predominantly men as well. So, it is a bit of a numbers game as to what women are comfortable doing and knocking on doors. I mean, I used to go to industrial park places and knock on doors when I first started in the industry to get clients, and that just takes guts. So part of it is just what's the personality of the people that we are bringing on. So if we are bringing on a woman, let's set her up for success. Let's talk to her about the types of things she's going to have to do, and does that match her personality, her natural personality? And if not, then maybe we would suggest, go the Megan route and start off in some sort of wholesaling role or something else. And so I think it's just taking a little bit of time to understand the individual, the different routes that are available, and making sure that that person is comfortable in the job duties that they're going to have to do. Because to be honest, and I know you know this, and everybody listening, the first 5 years of your job, it's just about finding people. Like your job is to actually call people and see people. It takes a while until you're managing a book of business. So you have to really, really be prepared for what your actual job is in the beginning. And I used to always say to my dad, I could tell who somebody was going to be successful is if they had a larger fear of failure than they did of rejection, because there's a lot of rejection in this business. There just is. And you have to somewhat be driven by money. It's a commissioned job. So there's no bad feelings around that. But if you're not somewhat motivated by money, then it's also not going to sit well with you. I don't know, Megan, what do you think?
Yeah, it's Darlene, you put forward some interesting points there of, you're in a room, you're afraid to speak up. Maybe people aren't even listening to what you say. Maybe your ideals are being stolen. I think part of it is, that like what Libby's describing is the hiring process. And we're kind of going back again to systematically changing the hiring process a little bit, because if we're looking, maybe we need to, I agree, people need to know what they're getting themselves into so that the expectation is set. Then we need to help set them up for success. But maybe instead of hiring into our typical box, maybe we do go outside of that box to hire. And that's where diversity and inclusion initiatives come from. Maybe we don't want someone that fits the culture. Maybe we want to broaden our culture and rethink about what that culture is. Yeah. I think a lot of great salespeople miss out because, I think again about, how some hiring was done early in my career with some of our partner companies. They were looking for people who played sports because they were competitive. They were looking for a really particular person, and a lot of them ended up being like a certain, one certain like look and feel. And so in order to get different hires in, I think we need to rethink about who could be good at sales. And a lot of really great salespeople are actually introverts. And we know because they're listening. And that's why women are so great at sales. We don't use Gong at Equitable Life, but I follow, their sales blogs and their statistics, and they've got a lot of great data. They've shown things like women are better salespeople because of active and empathetic listening. And the other piece I think too is, again, it's more societal shifts. I read an article earlier this year that was quite startling, that found that when in a group setting, women interrupting versus a man interrupting, and like the two using the same tone and the same words, men didn't just find women to be rude, they found them to be less intelligent than when the man said and did the same thing. Yeah. So there's still a lot of unconscious bias happening. And I think as a society, we're becoming more aware and we're making very slow progress.
Yeah, I think I know the article that you speak of. It was really still surprising that in 2021 we're encountering, and continue to encounter these biases. So it's kind of frustrating. So we've talked a lot about what we can do to go forward to balance these numbers. A lot of it is going to be perception of women in the financial services industry, women in sales roles, women in general, in whatever roles they want to achieve. So, we talked a little bit about, starting maybe even at the younger level, at high school, maybe. Is there something that could be introduced at the high school level to help girls at that age see that, being in a sales job isn't necessarily as scary and as bad as one might think? What do you think, Megan?
Definitely. I think part of it is solving maybe that 100% commission based piece and having some sort of starting salary. And I think that'd be helpful for anyone going into sales, like we talked about earlier, especially today, kids coming out of school with, large loans that they have to repay. It's different than it was even when I exited school. And so setting that aside, I think that if we share more about some of the jobs that are out there and what a day in the life of that job actually looks like, it would actually be helpful. Kind of almost, I think some schools have career fairs so that people can get a feel for what they want to have, for their university classes. And it's really challenging making these decisions when you're 17 and 18. Like, what do I want to be when I grow up? And that'll change. But I think just sharing what the jobs are, what a day looks like, and how maybe sales is done today. It's not that scary. It can be scary to pick up the phone and cold call someone, but I think that there's a lot of really great pieces to sales that a lot of people would enjoy. And it's going past that, stereotypical person too. Maybe there's other people that would enjoy sales if they just had a better understanding of what it's actually like. It's about helping people. And that's the ultimate goal. It's about helping people. It's not about, just trying to make money. Obviously, everyone wants to make money. We kind of have to. It's the way that the world works that we live in. But, if you really want to help people genuinely, then, a sales role can be a great fit.
Yeah. What do you think, Libby? How do we reach that younger mass of women?
It's an interesting conundrum. I remember when my daughter was doing co-op in high school, and she was working for a friend of mine in a data research company, and she had to call people. Well, she'd only text people. There's a whole generation of people that are not used to talking on the phone. So I think there needs to be some sort of socialization and training for any kind of job, even if you're in a corporate business and you need to make presentations and speak to people. So I think that's an issue, is getting people who are used to just writing emails and texting and to how do you actually have face-to-face and telephone calls. I wish we could phone people. When I started in the industry and we worked with the Granum system where you phoned 25 people, you reached 8, you made 4 appointments and you kept 2. So I used to come in every morning at 6:45 in the morning. I would start dialing for dollars, as we called it, at around 8 or 8:30, depending on whether it was a lawyer or a trader or who it was. But now, like, nobody picks up their phone. They're on permanent voicemail. So there has to also be a real training around how do you reach people. I mean, my day is so multifaceted between trying to manage social media, trying to think outside the box as to how do I prove my value and my brand to people. And I find that the sales cycle is longer now because people do some of their own research and they want a lot of information. So I think it's just as Megan was saying, it's just preparation, and we just have to change how we explain to people what they do and give them a little more support. I was really super fortunate when I started in 1988 that there was a really robust training program. I happened to be at London Life, but Manulife and Sun Life, like a lot of them had really robust training, and they have taken dollars away from that training and I think just put it into digitization and other things. And it's really, we need face-to-face mentoring and hand holding. Even just having people to call when you're having a bad day and saying, I can't believe everybody canceled on me today. What should I do? So yeah, I think, Megan, you and I could write like a protocol handbook, but it is not just about women. It's for anybody. But yeah, all of the advocate statistics will show you that people save, I can't remember what it was, but 40% more if they have an advisor. Insurance still needs to be sold, even though it's available online. Most people want to have somebody helping them with that. So we need new people coming in to help, because more than ever, another stat I heard is that 50% of people in Canada will have a cancer diagnosis at some point. So how do we protect against that? I was a breast cancer survivor. My critical illness came in handy, and it's so hard to get people even to spend $25 on buying a critical illness policy, which honestly, I can't even afford to sell people, but we do it because it's the right thing. But it's a lost leader for us. I mean, the amount of work we have to do for that. So there's a number of different things, but I really think mentorship, because it's more fulsome now what you have to do. It's not just dialing the phone and having the guts to ask somebody for an appointment.
Yeah, and then once we have people in, the stats on keeping people are terrible. And part of that we haven't touched on is mental health support. Sales is a up and down roller coaster ride. It can be quite stressful, and people burn out because it's a lot about your input to get your output. And so I think giving our sales team really strong coaching and support and tools to make sure that they're coping well, their resiliency is high, because pick up the phone, sure, but can you get rejected over and over? These things have a really big impact on our mental health. If you're always thinking about, can I hit target? Can I hit this number? That really weighs on you and occupies a lot of your mind. It's difficult to turn off work. You're kind of always thinking about, one more email, one more LinkedIn connection, one more. And so having those supports is really the key to getting people to stay.
Yeah. You know what? I like that, because I think, the last year and a half has taught us how important mental health is, and how many of us had not taken that into consideration. So the fact that, you brought that up, Megan, I think is fantastic, that you do have to take mental health into consideration, because we almost never turn off. And you both touched on, LinkedIn and social media, and how it's a part of our lives now. We're not going to be able to step away from social media. So I think that the fact that you're already addressing it says a lot about, how the future of the industry will fare, because it's going to be important. But just a side topic, in order to reach people, or to reach women in particular, how important is social media to your recruitment and connection process? Yeah, Libby, go ahead.
To be honest with you, Darlene, it's not so much social media. I really am reaching out to people that I know in the business. So maybe, corporate people at different head offices, to say, hey, you guys know me. We're looking for somebody. Obviously, they need to be somewhat consistent with our culture. So I don't use social media for that, because you could get inundated and get thousands of people. And, it's also very local, right? I want somebody locally to help me with my book. I don't want somebody living in Vancouver to help with my Toronto clients, because we are starting to see people again. I use social media more for building my brand as somebody who cares deeply for people, and I want to help them. And so I think we need, and Megan touched on this, we actually really need to emphasize the fact that our role, once we're in front of clients, it's such a role of honor. People are telling us deeply personal things and sharing their fears with us. And the fact that we are able to put in place protection mechanisms like wills and power of attorney and life insurance, and help them with budgeting and resources for different kinds of things. I think if people were maybe more aware of the fact that it's not selling a photocopier, not that there's anything wrong with that, but I'm just saying, what keeps me in the business 35 years later, I have really, really deep, lovely relationships with the people I've helped, and I'm delivering a lot of checks for a lot of money that changes and saves people's lives. So maybe there could be more an emphasis on what the beautiful outcome is as to how we help our clients.
Yeah.
I think social media is a good way for larger companies to help showcase and share their culture and their values to people entering the workforce. I mean, unless you're going to go out and start your own life insurance shop completely on your own, which I don't think you really can. You need to have some support in the beginning. It's a great way for companies to showcase, what is it like to work here? Who are we? What do we care about? And, if you believe studies or surveys or whatever, younger generations really care about, social responsibility, the environment, and a lot of different factors. And so social media, I think, is a way for the larger corporation to show off their chops and hopefully show some proof in the pudding too, because everyone has their values and whatever on their website, but what are you actually doing day to day to fulfill those values? And I think social media is a good way for companies to highlight what they're up to.
One of a previous guest who's been in the industry for a long, long time has said his why is that, not that he wants to do this, but it's an honor when he can present a check to somebody who really, really needs it. And to have been a part of that process so that they had that check coming to them, it helped him to see that what he was doing added so much value. And you guys have both touched on how much of an honor it is to be in front of your clients and helping them along the way. Oh, you know what, you guys, this is, I think I could probably talk with you for like another hour or so, but I know none of us can do that right now. So I'd really like to know, get your final thoughts on about women in the financial services industry, and how you see this progressing. Go ahead, Megan.
I'd say final thoughts, the women in the industry now, like all of us here today, I think it's partially up to us to help champion and pave the way for positive change to help younger women, enter the industry more easily and then stay in the industry. So I know there's a lot of great people that are doing just that, and making insurance and financial services a safe place for women to work and want to work. And so I think we need to continue on that headwind.
Thank you. What about you, Libby? What are final thoughts from you?
Yeah, I just think spread the message as to what it is that we're really doing, because it's an honor, yes, but it's also a lot of fun. Like, you meet amazing people and you get people who say to you, thank you so much. This has been on my mind forever. So I think that's really amazing. And maybe we need to set up more local mentorships for women, so that, I have people who call me out of the blue, and I'm more than happy to talk to them, men or women, about what I'm doing in this new world. So just to make it more readily available, real life help. And I would encourage all the insurance companies to get back to investing in face-to-face live training, COVID aside, when we're allowed to. But, we went and lived in London, Ontario for 3 weeks. And I not only had a cohort of people that I have kept in touch with my whole 35 years, but I got to meet a whole bunch of the head office people who I then went on to have to talk to, and I knew what their face was, and we had a relationship. So I think we need to go back to the appropriate type of training too.
Oh, that's some great advice. Both of you have given such great insight into this industry. I can't tell you how much I appreciate you guys coming on this show. It's been a super important discussion. And really, there are just so many opportunities out there for everyone, if they choose that path. So before we head off, can I ask you both, how can people get in touch with you? Go ahead, Libby.
Well, LinkedIn, fortunately with my name, there's not a lot of Libby Wildmans. There's probably not a lot of Megan Vallises either. So I'm LinkedIn, Instagram, whatever. You can look me up in Advocates. As I say, I'm happy to chat with people. I had so many people help me in my career. I'm very happy to pay that back.
Yeah, echoing what Libby has to say, pretty easy to find on LinkedIn. I'm definitely the only Megan Vallis around. And then all my contact information is posted there as well. So pretty easy to track down.
All right. And for everybody, their contact information will also be on the website as this goes up.
Yeah, and thank you, Darlene, for doing this, because it's quite unique that you're doing this for advisors. So it's really wonderful.
Oh, well, thank you. And thank you for coming on the show, Olivia. I know you're a returning guest, and, we never tire of having you on here. So it's been wonderful. And
I like talking. It's all good, Darlene.
Well, that's good. And Megan, thank you so much for coming on the show. I can't tell you how much I appreciate you being a part of this panel today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Really appreciate it. It was a good chat.
Yeah, you're a rock star, Megan. That was great to hear your views. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. Back at you.
And thank you to Customplan Financial Advisors for sponsoring this program. They are an award-winning managing general agency providing fantastic resources to the independent financial advisors. Look at what they offer at customplanfinancial.com. So this podcast is now on YouTube and Spotify, as well as financialpodcast.ca. So sign up or subscribe to be notified of every new podcast. And if you have an idea for a podcast or know of someone that would make a great guest, please send an email to contact@financialpodcast.ca. We'd love to have your feedback. Well, ladies, once again, thank you so much for coming on this program. It's been a real pleasure talking to you both.
Yeah. Ciao.
Bye-bye.
Views expressed here are those of the participants and not those of Customplan Financial Advisors Inc., its affiliates, or subsidiaries. This is not intended to serve as a complete analysis of every material fact regarding any company, industry, or security. This presentation may contain forward-looking statements. Investors are cautioned not to place undue reliance on such statements, as actual results could vary. This site and podcasts are for general information purposes only and does not constitute investment advice and is not intended as an endorsement of any specific investment product or service. Individual investors should consult with an investment professional about their personal situation, Past performance is not indicative of future results. If you are unsure about what is the best course of action for you in your financial planning, then we suggest you consult a fee-based independent financial advisor or get in touch with us to discuss your individual situation. Our phone number is 604-687-7773.